people that I work with, when I ask them, what's your plan? And they say, well, I want to retire when I'm 60. And I'm like, well, would you want to do it sooner? That question always shocks people because they're always like, well, yeah, of course I'd want to do it sooner. I'm like, well, why don't we do it sooner?
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or investment advice. Please consult a professional advisor before making decisions based on what you hear on this show.
Guys, have you ever thought about the fact that Michael Jordan is bringing in over $300 million a year in royalties alone? He's making more money, and he will pass this money to his kids, his grandkids, even maybe to great-grandkids who will never even meet him. They'll still be cashing his check. So the question for us is, what's our version of the Jordan brand? How do we build streams of income that keep flowing even after we're gone? I'm Russ Morgan. I'm one of the hosts today. We're going to be breaking down this topic. Let me bring in my partner, Mr. Joey Murray. Stallion, good afternoon.
Good to be with you, Russ. And what a cool topic we can talk about today.
So when you hear that Jordan makes $300 million a year without lifting a finger, what's the lesson that everyday people who may never have a shoe named after them, what mindset shift does that represent?
Well, it's what we talk about a lot on the show. The Wall Street mindset tells you that you need a pile of cash that will outlive you, or hopefully just be enough for you to live in quote unquote retirement. But the mindset shift that we have to do is we have to say, man, I don't want that cash flow in retirement, this big, massive pile. I need streams of income that are going to be perpetual in nature, that are going to not only provide freedom today before I would quote unquote be retired, but then what would outlast me in the future. Think about it like we even talked about this a while back on the Jack and the Beanstalk kind of episode that we talked about, is that it's not about just having a golden egg. It's about having the goose that provides the golden egg over and over and over again. Now, that's going to vary for whoever you are as an investor, but man, that's the mindset shift. That's the lesson is, where is our golden goose? And how do we figure out exactly which one is right for us?
How many summers do you have left with your kids? 10, maybe less?
And are you spending them together, or are you still stuck in the office while time slips by?
You want freedom. That's not the problem. The problem is you don't have a system that buys back your time. Without it, 3 years from now, your kids will be older and they won't care that your business was more successful. They'll remember you weren't there.
That's why we built the Passive Income Operating System, the plan we use to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. The system isn't free, but the training that shows you how it works is, and it's under an hour.
Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/PIOS. Take the first step to buying back your time now. Well, I want to bring in some of our coaches here, the dream team of financial freedom. First step on the table, Mr. Incredible, Mr. JD Hill. Good to see you, my friend.
It is always good to be seen, Russ. Glad to be here.
Hey, why do you think most people still chase growth, right? They're chasing the gold and the growth on that gold. And maybe that's in the form of like bigger 401k balances, higher net worth, instead of building streams, building the golden eggs on repetition, if you will, like Joey just said, and like Jordan has been able to do.
Yeah, because I think people do what is normal, right? So what's normative to them. And the reality is that if you do what's normal and you do what everyone else is doing, you're going to get the same results as everyone else. And that's not what we do. Right? We're not normal. We're abnormal. So if you want something different, you have to be willing to do the exact opposite of what everyone else is doing. And so that's the status quo. And I think that's largely because that's what the financial services system has taught. It's what gets perpetuated. It's what's in all the books is save money, until you're 65 or 70 years old, accumulate, as much as you can, try to get, a good growth stock mutual fund, if you ever heard that before, right? And get you 8 to 10% or whatever it is. But the whole model, the whole mantra of that normal thinking is growth focused. It's not, and it's future oriented. It's not now focused. And so I think because of that, that's why people continue to chase this idea of getting some large pile of money accumulated for the next 20, 30, 40 years, however long it is that your financial advisor told you needed to do that for. And then we focus on income. And so it's what normal people are conditioned to believe, but that's not what's normal in our community, right? What's normal in our community is not growth focused, it's income focused. It's what are the things we can be doing now to start creating passive income, right? The people that I work with, when I ask them, what's your plan? And they say, well, I want to retire when I'm 60. And I'm like, well, would you want to do it sooner? And that question always shocks people because I was like, well, yeah, of course I'd want to do it sooner. I'm like, well, why don't we do it sooner? Right? Because we just have to recognize that if you want to do it sooner, we can't do what we've been doing. We have to be willing to do something different.
No, that's so good. Well, let's get around the table to the doctor. He's a doctor of financial medicine, Mr. Eric Hudson. Good to have you back on the show, Eric.
Man, let's go. Happy to be here. Love talking about Michael Jordan. Maybe our listeners don't know this. He and I together share 6 NBA titles. So it's amazing the connection he and I have.
No, that's so good. Yeah, and we also have 300 million and 50,000 coming in passive income every year. So that's a good stat to have. With not too bad, not too shabby. So what's your thoughts to this question, man? Like, why are most people chasing bigger balances and not streams?
Yeah, I think it's lack of vision or understanding of what's possible. I think let's talk about the flip side of those people who have had even similar success, Russ, to Michael Jordan. So often we hear of professional athletes that accumulated this large either income or accumulated this large pile of capital, and they ran out of it. It's because they didn't understand how to build streams of income rather than just building up a pile of income. And so I think for that lack of vision and people don't know what's out there, that's probably what's happening. Here's the other thing that makes me pretty sad to think about, being that most everybody, like JD says, is piling money into these 59 and a half qualified plans. They're already doing some of the hard work. They're already exercising that muscle of siphoning off dollars to create the future they want to create. But they're pushing that future so far out, like JD's saying, until I'm 60 or 59 and a half. What if we didn't misappropriate those funds, if you'll let me use those terms, and get those dollars working for us now by appropriating them correctly? I think that's what's amazing.
Yeah, I think one of the lessons and insights here is that coming from an investment advisor perspective, JD, you were with me in this. We were taught how to separate people from their money. We were professionally trained. I tell people that all the time. Like, we are wealth without Wall Street because we were Wall Street at one point in time. We saw what that model actually was. And it wasn't, hey, let me show you how you can become more free, how you can have more control. It was like, no, you do your lane, you do your thing, you stay in your lane, I'll take care of the money. And I believe that's the reason why so many people have this feeling of frustration, is because they truly are out of control because they don't have any control. They control maybe how much money they make in their active incomes, but everything else is subjective and it's been given to someone else. And if they haven't received what they wanted, it's just a direct result of them participating in the model that was created. So as advisors, our goal was to collect money, assets under management, build up those streams. Anytime someone says, hey, you should take it, I'm thinking about taking it out, you go slap them on the hand, say no. I mean, here's the perfect example. I want to tell you about the time where it's March-ish of 2008. I'm in Tupelo, Mississippi, visiting with some clients that are in their mid-50s. They're telling us, hey, we're kind of starting to hear that the market is having a little bit of ebbs and flows. We're getting a little bit nervous. We've got, large, 7 figures in these accounts that you guys are managing for us. We wonder, would it make sense for us to maybe pull some of the chips off the table? Should we go to cash right now and kind of watch what happens? Well, as a trained advisor, my answer was no, that doesn't make sense, right? We pull out of the market, we're going to lose all potential growth we could have. Yes, there may be a little turmoil. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like. We won't know exactly when to get back in. It's all about time in the market, right? It's not about timing the market. Anybody ever heard that saying? And so we convinced them that the time in the market would flesh its way out. And I remember sitting on the golf course in October of that year when the market dropped 800 points, which today that seems like, oh, that's a good day, right? No, the 800 points in 2008 was like a shocker to the system. We'd never seen that before. At least I haven't. And I get a text message from these people wondering what happened to hundreds of thousands of dollars in their accounts and why hadn't they taken the steps, taken the steps they wanted to take, and they were out of control and they were frustrated by that. All right, so I want to kind of move to the next step. If the Jordan effect is about streams and not stacks, what are some of these maybe quote unquote Jordan brand equivalents that an everyday investor could take action on, Joe?
Well, I'll keep it very simple, but you have to first start with, what is your investor DNA? So what is the equivalent for someone else may not be the best fit for you. And people in our passive income lab are learning this and they're applying it. So you have an opportunity. If you're not an investor, you don't feel confident, you need to go to choosepassiveincome.com and actually get access to see if this is something that you could qualify to be a part of. But I'm going to make one simple application. Yesterday, I was at a real estate conference with other real estate investors. And these are guys that are very actively investing in real estate. And they started talking about just the simplest of vehicles being a long-term rental. And this is one of their choice, investments of choice for the reasons that we're talking about that Michael Jordan was saying. They talk about how it's immediate cash flow today, how there's tax benefits today. There's a mortgage pay down that a long-term tenant is paying your mortgage down on your behalf. And then in the future, the equity that house has appreciated will actually be accessible to you if you were to refinance it out, you actually get that money tax-free, and it could be in perpetuity, even handed down from generation to generation to continue that cash flow forever. That to me is a very simple application of a possible investment route that you could take that is technically accessible to virtually every investor out there. You don't have to be accredited or non-accredited. This is something anybody can invest in. So that's just one application. I'm curious to hear others.
Yeah, JD, what about you? What are some of those everyday Jordan deals you've built that don't depend necessarily on stock prices or growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something that I personally do is something called land notes. Something that's fascinating is I think most people would agree that the banking industry is a pretty profitable industry to be in. And the way banks make money is through lending, right? That's how they make money. And so if you can get into the business of lending or being the bank, you're going to cash flow like crazy. And that's what we do with land is we buy lands and then we turn around and we sell it on owner finance terms. So I'm the owner, I own it, and then I turn around and sell it to someone else on terms. So they give me a down payment and then they pay me monthly for a set period of time. And I collect cash flow. This is completely independent of the market. It's totally cash flow focused. It has nothing to do with anything else other than just receiving cash flow. And so that's something that I do personally. And that's something that I think is an easy entryway for a lot of people to get into. Meaning it doesn't necessarily require hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know people in our community that are buying land for $800, right? And then turning around and selling it for, on a note for $80 a month, which may not seem like much depending on, where you are financially. But my point is that it's an easy segue. It's an easy thing to get into that doesn't require a tremendous amount of capital.
How about for you, Eric? Talk about some of those Jordan streams that keep paying you today and others can maybe apply as well.
Yeah, I think for most people, they are ignorant of the value of their skill set and what they know how to do. So many people in our community have just turned what they're really, really good at into a stream of income by teaching others to do the same. And intellectual property, so I've written a song. I'm a BMI songwriter, and I get royalties for that. I've written a book. I get royalties every month for that. I have some intellectual property that I've licensed that I get royalties every month from. So it's this work that's done one time, but then the income from that work goes on and on and on. And with the advent of AI, it's never been easier to take your intellectual property and get some help to build that out so it's marketable. Additionally, there's a guy in our community here, local city that I live in. Think about how simple this is, Russ. He literally bought a piece of property on a busy highway close to the city that I live. He put a fence around it and some gravel on it. Now, that empty lot that I saw him build and just put a fence around it is slap full of boats, RVs, all sorts of things that people are just storing, and they're paying him either annually or monthly, just this recurring income off this one very simple idea that he did. He doesn't have an employee. He has an electronic gate where people get in and out. He's literally turned gravel into a gold mine.
How much passive income do you have right now? And if in 5 years you're still at the same point, what's that going to cost you? Maybe more time at a job you hate or missing moments with your family?
See, most people don't move because they don't know what to do. So they just keep doing the exact same thing.
That's why we built the Passive Income Lab. It's a 12-week program where you are guaranteed your first $500 a month in passive income.
But here's the catch. It's not open to everyone. We only let in 10 people at a time.
So the real question is, will you be one of them? Apply now at choosepassiveincome.com.
There was nothing worse than walking into class when you're in school and the teacher saying, "Pop quiz day." Why? Because you were unprepared. Are you unprepared, though, for financial freedom?
Don't be. Find out how close you are by taking our 30-second quiz at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/quiz.
This is so good. Joey, you own a website. It's a content website. It creates revenue in the form of like paid ads, people that want to put their ad on your website because it gets traffic. That doesn't require a whole lot of work of you, does it?
No, and in fact, there's lots of people that can operate a business like that for very, very inexpensive. And so that's actually what we've chosen to do, is to pay somebody to manage the traffic, to get people to that website over and over every single month. And it just continues to pay in perpetuation there.
But I want to give just a couple quick rapid fire examples. That's one. You've got a Turo business where someone manages that, where you have cars that are out on rent. Somebody else is renting them. You're not having to deal with that. We have had a short-term rental business where we had a manager who operated that whole system. We've got a business that buys and sells land, just very similar to what you were talking about, JD. We have businesses where we've invested in where there's self-storage, multifamily, mobile home parks, self-storage, all these different concepts where income streams continue to come, even though we're not working in them on a day-to-day basis. There's vending, right? Right now, there's someone buying something out of a vending machine that we own and our kids are actually operating. That's reoccurring revenue that happens. We have membership courses and groups where people pay into that continue to happen over and over. We also have a book that we wrote that gives royalties. All of these different things. There's so many different ways to build streams of incomes. There's not just one. I want you to know that you can do it too. All right, let's talk a little bit about the how here. Jordan, his checks are keeping on coming even after he's gone, which is pretty amazing and astounding. So how can we build these streams of income that outlive us and provide for future generations? JD?
Yeah, I love all those ideas, and there's no shortage of them. I think it's just a shortage of execution. But to this question here, one of the things that I love about infinite banking is not just the use of the cash values to go and invest, but there's a death benefit that's attached to it. And it's the cheapest way to buy legacy. And so when I die, if I died today or hopefully long into the future, my family's world financially is going to be totally okay because of that death benefit. And so what we've built is a system of whole life policies across our entire family. So my wife has policies, my kids have policies, and then all of those death benefit proceeds are going to flow into a trust. And there are rules that are going to govern the trust that I establish and set up, right? Based on our vision for our family. And then that trust lives on forever. And so in the future, when my kids get married, their spouses will buy life insurance policies that's owned by the trust. When they have kids, their kids will have life insurance that's also owned by the trust. And so this is going to be funding for generations. So the estate doesn't die with me. It was actually the seed that I planted that's going to grow and grow and grow just like a tree. It reminds me of a book that I read called What Would the Rockefellers Do? And this is the model that they built out. And what was interesting is high level of the book, and there's a lot more to it, but it basically chronicled two different families, the Vanderbilt family and the hold on, buddy, the Vanderbilt family and the Rockefeller family. And what the author presented was that the Rockefeller trust, that money is still in existence 7 to 8 generations later or whatever it is, and the Vanderbilt fortune is gone. And the reason is because what Rockefeller recognized was that in order for the money to keep growing, you have to keep the money together. You have to set rules and guidelines for how it's going to be used so that it can multiply and keep growing and not be dwindled and spin away the moment that you're gone. And so that's what we've done for our family. And it has created excitement. Even, my wife certainly doesn't want me to die, but she certainly knows that, when that happens, she's going to be totally fine financially.
Oh, that's so good. How about for you, Eric?
Yeah, I think I just want to sort of dovetail on what JD said based on all the client interaction that I have. So many times I jump on with a client and they're passionate. Their goal is to learn how to create passive income streams, how to build a plan out for their families. Generational wealth is what you hear a lot, but what I'm beginning to understand is generational time freedom is what we're looking for. And what JD is doing, the intentionality behind that, not only is he going to pass down his financial wealth, but because all of this creates an opportunity to have conversation, he's teaching his family and his kids all along how we're going to pass down these values of our family along with the financial benefits and the wealth and the time freedom. And just an amazing, important point, I think, and distinction to make there. I can't tell you, it's probably 99% of clients that I talk to is, Eric, help me do this for myself so that I can help my kids do the same thing. And I can hear it, the cry in their heart from that. And so it's an amazing opportunity.
Right. It sounds like your dog's pretty passionate about it too. We got kids, we got dogs, we got coaches. So, man, you guys listen to this. You got the full Monty here. Everybody's passionate, as you can tell, about how do we build these passive income streams that continue no matter what, like Jordan said. So I don't know who let the dogs out over there, but let's go. All right. If you're listening to this and you're wanting to start your first passive income stream, maybe get your first $300 a month going, right? We maybe not going to get to 300 billion immediately. Joey, what is the first step someone listening can take action on, in your opinion?
Yeah. So the very first thing, and I'll make it simple for you. If you haven't already taken action and gotten our free training called the Passive Income Operating System, go to wealth.wallstreet.com/PIOS. That is the number one first step. And what you're going to gain from that is your cash has to be flowing in a way that supports this end goal. And you don't get that without clarity. The very first step in this is you're going to get clarity when you look at, what am I currently doing with cash? Where is it flowing to? Is that getting me closer to or further from my goal? Even though at one point, what I was doing with this money was a quote unquote good thing. It was told to me that it was a benefit to me. Does it now support the new goal, perhaps, that I want freedom today? And what you'll find is these money traps along the way are actually keeping you from your end goal. So get clarity, do the passive income operating system as step one, and that will get you way faster the $300 a month that you're seeking.
All right. Awesome. JD.
Yeah, thank you for that, Joey. That was amazing. Because once you get clarity, the next step from my perspective is you have to be willing to take control of this unbelievably important piece in your financial world. The natural default for everyone is to abdicate this decision to other people. But here's what I'll tell you, as somebody who's been on the other side as a traditional financial advisor, nobody cares more about your financial world than you do, right? I care deeply about my clients' financial lives, but it wasn't mine, right? And so nobody's going to care more about what you're doing than you are. And so the next thing would be to take control of that piece of your life And then set up your own banking system so that once you do that and you have control, and now you know where these dollars are, you can decide where each one of those dollars are going to go. You can decide what passive income opportunity you're going to pursue. Because the other thing too that most people don't realize is there's a thing in the financial advisory space called selling away. And it's actually against the rules for a financial advisor to sell away, to make a recommendation on a product that they don't offer. So if you were to go to your financial advisor and say, hey, do you recommend that I put money into this passive income thing? They're going to have to legally say no. They can't, because that's considered selling away. It's outside of the thing that's on their product shelf that they can get paid for. So like, even if they wanted to say it was a good idea, they're not obligated to tell you that it's a good idea. And so that's the thing that I'm talking about when it comes to taking back control, is nobody's standing between you and your financial decisions but you. And I think that is so important for people to recognize, is that you can do it. I promise anyone can do it.
Yeah. How about for you, Eric?
Yeah, I think this whole conversation here is encouraging people to take the next step and to invest, but don't use the time-honored approach of one potato, two potato. That's not what we're suggesting here. You need to understand who you are as an investor, how to become an investor, and then learn how to make the investment decision that's going to solve the problem or meet the goals that you're trying to solve for.
That's so good. All right. I want to kind of rapid fire here as we wrap this up. It's been a good podcast so far. I want to leave our listeners just maybe, again, there's so much that we have to unlearn, and unlearning something is way harder than learning something. So you guys have had a chance, been around doing this for a while. What's one myth about passive income you wish maybe people would understand before they would have started?
I think for
Joey,
me,
you want to go
I'll
first?
jump in here.
Or Eric? Okay.
Yeah, I'll jump in here first. Is that a lot of people have heard the term the rich get richer, or your uncle will tell you, well, you have to have money to make money. You don't have to be rich to get started. There are so many opportunities out there for a small investment of time and or money. You can begin to start generating maybe small amounts of passive income, but you learn to grow that over time.
That's good. How about you, Stallion?
Yeah, I have actually two myths, Russ, and I can't just sit back and just let one of them go unspoken of. The first one is, if you're a successful entrepreneur, business owner, you are automatically a good investor. I can't tell you how many people believe that, because they're optimistic, right? Entrepreneurs are naturally the go-getters. They're going to push through a brick wall to get something done, and they think that that's how investing is. And they couldn't be further from the same. In fact, an investor is not an optimist. They're a pessimist. They're going into a deal saying, this deal doesn't work. Prove to me how it does. And they're looking for the gaps, and they're being very, very controlled and disciplined, which is, again, very uncommon for an entrepreneur. The second thing that I would say in terms of another myth is that passive income is uninvolved income. Like, I just put my money away and hope for the best, and it's just going to work on its own. The reality is, and this is related to the first myth, if you're not an investor, you have to be trained to be an investor. And if you haven't already taken us up on our offer to join the Passive Income Lab, or at least apply to see if you qualify, go to choosepassiveincome.com and see if it's a fit. Because once you actually become an investor, you understand that there's a lot involved in due diligence. There's a lot involved in vetting operators, and there's a lot involved in looking at the history of how certain things have performed and looking at the future and how those things are going to perform in the future. That does not mean that you can just blindly put money in something and it's going to turn into passive income. If you do not do these steps, becoming an investor, you will be parted with your money.
Yeah, and I would say just kind of an additional step to that, just an add-on, is that knowledge does not equal understanding. You can listen to all the podcasts you want to. You can go listen to all the pitches you want to. You can read all the books on it. I mean, there's tons of them. How many of you have read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad? It talks about how to gain financial freedom. You've read our book, 3 Steps to Freedom Through Passive Income. Knowledge does not equal understanding. Action will. And don't allow the first deal that doesn't go right for you to be the difference maker. I almost did that because I got into one of those rental properties and it just was not the fit for me. And I thought, well, this is the end. This is all there is. And it wasn't until I learned that, no, I invest out of my experience. I invest out of my investor DNA. That gives me joy. That gives me return. And that creates the value that I want. JD, what about for you? What's one myth that you wish that people would have understood before they started?
Yeah. One, I think the biggest one that stands out, and there's a few, but is that you have to be accredited to start investing. And that the only options that exist out there are for accredited investors. And the reality is that you can create cash flow with very little capital, and sometimes even without even using your own capital. In fact, my story would share that that's actually the case. The first investment opportunity that I took advantage of was not with my money. And I know that there are deals out there through private lending and private loans where you can do it for as little as $5,000. Like, it doesn't take a lot. It just takes a little bit of effort. And I think that's the biggest thing that separates the people that have started creating passive income and the ones that don't, is that little gap of effort to get you across the line, right? Because you're scared or you're fearful. None of your friends are doing it. And so they'll all tell you the reasons why it doesn't work. Find new friends. And in fact, I'll tell you where you can find new friends. It's in our community, right? Our community is chock full of people that will encourage you and support you and stir you up to love and good works and help you find the things that you want to do and support you along this journey, because it can be lonely, right? And so I think that's the other part of what I was going to say, is outside of not having to be accredited, but there's a community out there of people that are doing exactly what you want. You just got to plug into it and have the effort to go execute.
No, that's so good. Well, we hope that you found value today. We hope that you want to be like Mike, right? and create streams and not stacks. If you found value, take time to screenshot this and just send it to us on one of the social media channels. We love to create more content like this. Grateful for you coaches. Grateful for you listening. Hope you have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.